Hey, everybody. Today is Thursday, October 11th, not to be confused with Wednesday, October 10th, which would have been 10/10, but it's 10/11. It's not actually Thursday, Mike. It's Wednesday. I don't even know what
It
day
is
it is.
Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
Yes, I have a delivery coming.
Yes,
Thank you.
there's your delivery. So it's time for the 109th, which is just like
Bananas.
insane to me. Prove It Live podcast, where we have talked about a variety of things. But today's topic is about pitching, specifically my pitching program, Velocity RX, and a bunch of stuff having to do with that. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you my very handsome co-host, Mr. Mike Ferry. Michael.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for that nice, kind, warm introduction. Yeah, 109. That's it's crazy. Really is crazy. Yeah. Yep. And that was
actually COVID thing. Hey, let's do this. And now we're here.
And that's after we had a little, 2-month hiatus there with the summer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. We haven't. Yeah.
So this is So I'm excited about today's show, as I'm always excited about the show. And yeah, Velocity RX program, pitching, some things that we're going to be doing together. And so for so many episodes, I mean, we always talk about what we see that's going on, that's wrong with the sport in terms of development and health, performance, all of it. And this has been long in the making, right, Kev? But we're actually finally about to do something about it, and we're excited to talk about that. One thing I can say is sort of a good segue into what we're talking about today, Kevin. And I do want to mention, we'll talk a little bit about hitting too towards the end, because there's something that I've been seeing watching these playoff games that I want to talk about. But the first thing I notice is, we're being deprived of some great pitchers right now. I mean, watching the Texas game last night, Texas got the sweep in Baltimore, swept them without Scherzer. DeGrom's been out. I mean, we're missing some. Felix Bautista's out for the Orioles. We're missing some pitchers that are really fun to watch. And so we're sort of being, just as a fan of the sport, sort of being deprived seeing some of the best players in the game because of we've been doing things wrong for so long, right?
Yeah, I mean, just look at Tampa Bay limped probably into the playoffs. I think they lost at least 2 or 3 of their starters, right? McClanahan and those guys that went down injury. It's just, we talk about all the time. It's just a complete epidemic. The Minnesota Twins, which I believe are still in the playoffs, I remember as a kid, Jack Morris, when the Twins had Kirby Puckett and Ken Herbeck and all those guys. I believe Morris went 10 innings in the game, right?
He did.
Some 1-0 game. Your starters in any playoff right now will be lucky to pitch 10 innings in 2 games, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just this quest for velocity has really just gone awry. It's this thing where people, I guess that Nolan Ryan and Bob Gibson and Goose Gossage didn't throw hard.
Get to plus.
Yeah, right. They must have only thrown Mariano Rivera. They must have only thrown 90 miles an hour, but the quest for velocity has gone through the roof, and the numbers just don't bear out its effectiveness, right? I'm sure as you talk about hitting, you're going to see, I think there was only, at quick glance, 9 guys who were above 300. But and maybe that's got something to do with the new pitching, but then, did anyone win 20 games this year? I don't think anyone close. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the strikeouts are up. But the home runs are up, right, through the roof. So, and more importantly, the injuries are literally through the roof. And it's not just affecting starting pitchers, it's relief pitchers. Over the New York Yankees, Garrett Cole, who will probably, I think, win the Cy Young only because he's the only pitcher who survived. I mean,
the
Yankees' entire starting pitching staff, except for Garrett Cole, out with injuries. That's just, I just find that mind-boggling to me that one, that it's happening, and two, no one is demanding any accountability.
No. In fact, it's the norm now. That's, having all your starters but one out. That would have been a major, major story. I mean, they'd be leading with that on ESPN, and now it's no big deal. And I want to just say something too, just to be clear, like averages aren't down, strikeouts being up only because pitching, because well, see, that's what happens when guys throw harder. No, they're really not. First of all, the technology in today's radar guns is the best we've ever had. It's picking up as early as possible. So you're not seeing, maybe I guess I'll agree to maybe, generally speaking, there's more hard throwers, but the hardest throwers would still be the hardest throwers.
More frequent hard thrower, like there's more guys that throw
Yeah.
over 95. Yeah.
Right. But there's a couple things I'll say. That number one, the style and approach to hitting is different, right? And there's the philosophy is even different, right? So that, you got Kyle Schwarber's a good example, right? Hitting the low 200s, but scores a whole bunch of runs, drives in a whole bunch of runs, and his production value and his overall value is high because of that, right? And so they're the nerds in baseball, the sabermetrics guys, and the guys that look at all the the backroom numbers, they say that average isn't important anymore. And I'm not going to argue it right now, but that's just the philosophy. So one of the things I wanted to mention is that someone was talking about one of the games is that how hitters are being taught to look for things down in the zone to drive. You don't want to go after things up in the zone. Why? Well, because with launch angle and the over obsession with launch angle, guys aren't getting to that up pitch anymore. They're swinging and missing on it. So they have to look for pitches down. So almost a complete reversal of a basic approach to hitting. And so I think that meant something. The other thing I'll say, and now I'm going to turn it back over because I got a question for you, is Nathan Eovaldi last night, right? Pitched an absolute gem. Doesn't throw as hard as he used to. He was throwing 100 and 101.
You said 3 Tommy John surgeries, right?
Right.
One in high school and 2 as a pro.
But when he was hitting the 100 and 101, he was being hit, and now he's mixing his pitches more. And by the way, that's does so much for effective velocity, right? I mean, you see 4 or 5 breaking pitches or off speed pitches in a row, then you see 95. It's more effective than 100 miles an hour if you're only throwing 100 miles an hour. So I thought that was really interesting. These guys. I'll end with a little story I remember here from Bob Gibson, and I wish I remember exactly who was telling it, but I'm sure anyone listening, you could look this up. Rookie Kevin.
Yep.
First time he's facing Bob Gibson, and he's up at the plate. First pitch, fastball, called strike 1. Okay. Second pitch, boom, strike 2. Fastball. Third pitch, fastball, boom, strike 3. And as he turns around to walk to the dugout, he says to the umpire, he goes, "Come on, Blue, that one sounded a little high." That's how hard Bob Gibson threw, right? I mean, so what's going on?
Yeah, similar story at the old Yankee Stadium. Growing up in Connecticut, I lived probably door to door, less than 90 minutes away from the ballpark, and it was expensive as it is now. My dad, I think, at least once a summer, sometimes twice, we'd go to a game. And I remember, and they said what they did, I guess, in the mitt, in the catcher's glove, that he used to put a piece of tin on his hand inside. Well, you could hear the pop of the glove when Goose Gossage
in the bleachers,
stadium, when he was throwing, you could hear it. You could hear the pop of the glove. So, these guys, but Goose Gossage also wasn't a 1-inning guy, right? He's a 2-inning guy, and like how many guys can throw 3 pitches effectively for strikes? I mean, I even look at Garrett Cole, gives up a ton of home runs, right? Because he's 97 fastball, 93 slider, and 90,
everything's hard,
and 90 changeup.
Yeah.
No, we want a Pedro Martinez changeup where it's even when he got hurt, 94 fastball, 83 changeup, 82, right?
Yeah.
There's the art of pitching, and I've heard Maddox say the same thing. Yeah, I could throw 95 miles an hour, but it's about outs. And these guys aren't getting enough outs at the end of the day. And it's taking, why it cascades into everything. Why is the game taking longer? Because 32 pitchers are coming in, right? 7 guys, right? Because no one's getting 27 outs, right? and whoever has come up with the velocity somehow is the end all be all, considering coming out of an era where two guys won well over 300 games, never really staying above 90, which would be Maddox and Glavine. To me, you would want to emulate that,
Yeah.
right? But now they've gone the velo route, and no one will win 300 games a year again unless that is changed, because these guys are just blowing out at epic rates. And it's not even pitchers now, it's outfielders, infielders, and catchers.
Yeah.
No one seems to be alarmed. Nobody.
Nope. Yeah. Bryce Harper just had Tommy John surgery. I mean, he wears
Bryce
this
Harper.
big thing on his arm now when he gets on base. It's like,
Right. It's insane, and I hope that I can help in saving a million arms, because these kids today, like, you're not going to help these college, these college guys, they're, definitely pro, but even, I was down at Montreat College a couple weeks ago. Even those guys have fixed ideas about, what's right or wrong. And of course, it's funny because most of them are hurt, right?
yep.
One guy who didn't buy into anything I did. He was a Tom House guy. Wouldn't even listen. And guess what? He's thrown one. I got to even meet him. He didn't want to hear what I had to say. Nothing. The pitching coach told me about him afterwards, right? He's had apparently one inning in 2 years because he's hurt.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing. Like, people will continue. It's insanity, right? They'll continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? I think that's what Einstein said. Like,
Yep.
you're not even going to want to listen to another opinion,
Can't
another
have it.
way. You're hurt. And again, this goes back to, you train for two reasons: one, to improve performance, and two, to stay healthy. And neither one, in my opinion, is really in sports at all. Like, it's not, now that I'm playing fantasy football, you're a running back, you're a receiver, you're out with a hamstring pull.
I know.
Come on, man. Come on. What are we doing?
So has that gone away? Has it just, like, as I agree with you, that's what you're training for, right? Just to keep yourself healthy and to increase your performance or enhance your performance, maximize it, however you want to look at it.
Right.
But are people really training to stay healthy? Like, I don't know that they are. I think that's a completely sacrifice at this point.
I don't know if it was like the whole, wave of CrossFit, do as much as we can, as fast as we can. Certainly the training
Mechanics out the window.
Of speed, whether that's running speed, pitching speed. It's there's an obsession with that, right? And there isn't at all an obsession with movement. You get people who will talk again. You have the armchair detractors. Oh, it's all strength. Oh, it's
Right.
all this. Well, no, it's not. Like, you can have the strongest arm in the world. You accelerate it against gravity in a in a position where you got a valgus force in your elbow, you're going to blow out.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time. But, it's social media. It's like coaching pressure, who knows? But I mean,
Too many experts out there now too that people listen
alleged
to.
expert. But
Yeah.
I mean, like, you could argue, right, that Driveline has exploded over the last 2 years after Kyle Boddy was fired for literally ruining Cincinnati's pitching staff.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's like, oh, I don't get it. I don't understand. And
Because they have great marketing videos. You watch one of their videos on social media, and it's like there's music. This guy's like letting it go. Everyone gets fired up when he lights up the gun. Who doesn't want to be a part of that, right? I mean, it looks fun. It looks cool.
Who pitches like that in a game? You see these run and gun things. Those are just, I have to laugh at those, because no one pitches like that in a game. And I just see these, guys spinning, falling off the mound, their arm. Like, no one is in control of their body.
Right.
And I guarantee if I did functional I mean, just so, back to the college, not one person, not one, came close to passing any of my game tests, which is just squat, lunge, couple shoulder movements. Every single person failed with flying colors. So now the basic of human movement. So here, guys, right? Just take this example. We've got the basics of human movement. Your parking garage, your base, you have failed, right? And on top of that, now we're doing high lift, a lot of weightlifting, a
Mhm.
lot of high level stuff on a bad movement base. That is a recipe, or was. Now we've corrected it with them. And they've adopted, the pitching coach, Brett Rosner, has been fantastic, has adopted literally everything that I have gone over. I couldn't ask for a better result. But guys are, oh my God, my arm moves better. I had 4 or 5 guys just do my shoulder workout, isometrics, and get up and without any warm up, throw a ball as hard as they could. How'd that feel? Oh my God, that's great. Because I want to like, okay, we're looking here and that's wrong. Can we just look at here and let's just try it and let's just see what happens. Let's go with an instant result.
So what do you do in a situation like that? Like, what's the first thing? So you say these guys are going to fail the squat test, maybe fail a lunge test, whatever. So what's the first thing? So in other words, what should pitchers really be thinking of instead of all day? Because I couldn't agree more. The focus on the arm and the term arm strength is so misguided. I can't begin to describe how misguided it is, right? And so again, I'll say it again, baseball is 5 ounces. You don't have to be a Hercules to throw it. It's not heavy, right? And what you need is speed. So, but I don't want to go on a tangent about that. But so what should they be focusing on? What should pitchers be? Forget about arm speed, right? What should they be focusing on?
It's a great question. So I'm a simple guy. You have to focus on the basics of movement. You have to have basic functional mobility of all of your movements, or you're going to get hurt or lose performance. It has to be an upside down triangle. Sometimes I'll explain it, or it's got to be one Lego block at a time. So people ask me, "Oh, you do baseball, but you don't do football." Well, you don't have to squat during football,
Right.
like it's so fun. Like this is the other that's specified. Oh, I only do football training. I only do hockey training. It's all the same, right?
Yeah. Try blocking somebody without getting your hips and butt back.
We have to be able to pull our shoulder blades down, right? We've got to be able to scapular depress. We have to be able to squat, and we have to be able to rotate. Those are the 3 basic movements that have to be mastered. Those are the 3 basic movements that in 30 years, I've never seen anyone do it kinesiologically or neurologically correct without training. Right. So what's happening in today, we skip that part and we go right into as hard, as much, how fast, right? We don't do the initial corrective or building blocks of exercise. We don't. So when I invented the game test, that's because there's nothing else out there. Everything was like so high level, right? And those tests are great. The functional movement screen, Gray Cook, that's a good test. But Granny can't do that test, right? So I needed something that filled in the blanks for everybody, and it just wasn't out there. Like we've gone from Lego block 1 to page 7. We're at Lego block 6 or 7. But to me, it's those first movement blocks that are the key to everything, not only from a sports performance, Mike, but clinically. Like people will come to me, oh, my shoulder's not better. And what will I see every single time? Missing Lego block 1, Lego block 2, like the basic first move people don't have. And you can't fix someone who's injured that way. And you can't build an athlete that way. And that is the main reason why there is so much injury in all sport, not just baseball. And we're missing those components.
Right. That's good. And I also see too, and I'm sure you agree with this, right? That it's all of these things together, because I'll see guys, big leaguers, right? So one of the things you see a lot more now, I think you probably give credit to, is that you see these pitchers squat a lot more now, right? So they have their leg lift and then they'll sit back. They really get deep in the squat, more than I've ever seen across the board, which is great. But then a lot of them, their arm's still out of sequence, right? The arm should be coming, last, and it's not, Or sometimes it is, but too much, right? They're trying to over exaggerate that hip to shoulder separation, but you have to have the body motion, the body movement, right? The proper movement, and you have to have the proper sequence to go with it. If either one of those are off, you're at a minimum not maximizing your performance, and at worst, you're setting yourself up for injury, right? I mean, so if you have a pitcher like like you did at this college, how many of them, well, let me ask it this way. What's the most prevalent thing? Is it that they're not able to perform the movements, or that they're out of sequence, or is it both? Or is it 50-50? Where is that?
Yeah, I think that's all kind of wrapped up in one bad movement package. It's both.
Yeah.
But one of the, my free throw test, where it's, you're keeping your elbow here and you're coming all the way up and throwing. Most guys are limited there 30-40%, right? So that means when they have multiple joint movements, elbow, wrist, which pitching is,
right,
they're already 40% down on their movements. So that means at really high intense levels, we need to get my arm all the way up. So what we're doing is we're fighting against our own body before we even let the ball out of our hand. We're literally fighting our own body because we don't have the synergistic movement to facilitate throwing. And that's what my whole Velocity RX program is about. Yeah. I'm not going to be throwing, if you want plyo balls and all, you're not getting that. The purpose of that program is to clean up your functional movement and clean up your mechanical movement. And when you move better and freer, you will throw harder. It's doesn't take a brain surgeon to see that. But no person that I have ever seen in 30 years, athlete moves correctly. They just don't. And why you and I are talking about athletics and other people are getting paid is because the body's an amazing tool, right? It will always do what you tell it to do. And they have compensatory movement skills that are beyond belief, right? Do you think LeBron James moves kinesiologically correct in all of his movements? No,
of course
but
not.
he has the ability, compensatory movements to bypass that the average person could only dream about. And that's why you're an athlete.
Yep. And by the way, that happens in sport, right? I mean, you think about just a ground ball up the middle and a shortstop going to his glove side, going to second base. And instead of spin moving, sometimes they literally just kind of torque their body this way and throw almost complete opposite of the way you're supposed to move just to get the out and to get it done. And you see that, you're like, wow, that's a remarkable feat of athleticism, right? Which it is, right? 100%. But that shouldn't be your normal way of throwing.
No. And like I say, as you've heard me say, define an athlete or an athletic move is taking any movement, any athlete, give me 100 frames, right? And in each frame, they need to be in an athletic position, right? We know that pitching, you'll see everyone forward and their arm back.
Yeah.
You've seen my models. That's not an athletic move. So the definition of an athletic move is that you can make another move instantaneously without a preparatory move. So the better athletes can go from one movement to another with zero preparatory movement. And that's how I train people. Let's go from a lunge to a squat, or from a lunge to a high knee or crane, whatever we're going to call it, in one move, in one split second. That's when you become a good athlete, to do those positional changes without in a blink of an eye. And I just don't see that. I don't see it in kids. I don't see it in other athletes. It's remarkable how uncoordinated some high level athletes are.
Oh yeah.
At basic movements. And you've seen it. You've seen it.
See it all the time. I see it all the time, and kids that look, when they walk in the door, you go, wow, this kid looks like an athlete, right? I mean, there's something in scouting that people have already heard about, but it's like passing the eye test, right? And that is a real thing, especially talking about like professional scouts. Like unless you're really, really just doing things that are so freakishly abnormal, you got to pass the eye test. You got to look like you belong in a professional diamond, right? And so you see kids that come in like that, and you're like, wow, they're obviously, they're putting a lot of time in the gym. and then they don't move properly,
Mhm.
or, and look, and this is the thing that I think, because I'm going to ask you, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire in a second, have you put a percentage on it. But what I see is you have a lot of kids that are doing it incorrectly, or we see at the big league level, and they're having success. They are succeeding because of compensatory motion, or just because they're athletic enough to get away with certain things. And what I mean by that is, you might have a kid who's, just he's got a lot of advanced, superior, fast twitch, and he can hit with his arms and his hands against most high school level pitching and hit the ball hard. He's a big kid or whatever. He's strong, but that doesn't mean that he wouldn't be even that much better, or wouldn't go a lot farther if he were moving in the right sequence, if he were really hitting with his lower half and his core and letting his hands come after the fact. So you see a lot of that. And I think that's a big reason why there's the resistance that you're getting, like you said, like this kid that wouldn't even come out. But before we really delve too deep into that, or you can if you want, but I want to ask you, like, because we work in the world of youth, right? And when I mean youth, it's 10-year-olds all the way up to college players. That's still youth, especially, now at my advanced age of 48 years old. That's still the youth. So of the youth players, all the youth players, put a percentage on it. How many are moving without proper body movement of the ones you see?
Like, sorry, that are moving correctly or moving?
No, are not moving
badly?
correctly.
All of them.
Yeah.
I've never seen one who, like,
It's
you
crazy.
might have a guy who does part of a movement correctly, right? The
Right.
beginning part, but not the full movement. I mean, just the squat alone, and you've seen it. I've got, how much you squat? I squat 350, and I watch, and right as they get right where the body should be the most stable, boom, there goes the lumbar lordosis.
Right.
Now, how are you getting? By the way, just so people know, that the lordosis is that inward curve of your back that needs to stay inwardly curved during the whole squat movement, because if it flattens out, you just shut off your glute. Gone. So now someone's got 250 pounds on a bar and a rounded back. What happens, right? Where does that stress go?
Right.
That goes all through the spine. But
Somewhere that's not supposed to be bearing that weight.
But you don't, like, I'm not tooting my own horn, right? Anyone can pick up any kinesiology book and look at, and there's books behind me, right? You can look at what the proper form is, right? And I'll see, like, my own colleagues, like knee over toe,
I know.
rounded back. And I'm like, dude, what do we not take the same kinesiology course? Like, just the basics. Like, I don't want you to get the calculus stuff, but do the basics. And I don't see it. So I don't know if, I don't even want to speculate. Like, is this like a whole money grab thing? Is it a whole social media thing? But I mean, look up Google, loss of lumbar lordosis does what to glute.
Right. Right.
Right. And I don't know. And then you'll see the colleagues of mine that are in the baseball space with pitching.
Yep. Well, and by the way, some of this you nailed it. You nailed it. Like, the basics you should get, because you don't even have to go to school to know what you're supposed to do. Maybe you don't know the intricate mechanics of it, but when we were in like elementary school, I'm sure we had teachers going, "Hey, chest out, shoulders back, chin up," right? And so that doesn't happen anymore. And now it's more important to remind kids of that, because they're constantly like this.
Yeah. On their
Constantly on their phones, looking down, shoulders rolled forward, right? And yeah, athletes too.
And then, I think it was funny, like, in my town of Acton, Mass, for my practices, I made the mistake of posting something on Facebook. It's parents too, man, because
Oh my God. Yeah.
I went past, there's two beautiful, one is a replica of Fenway Little League Fields in Acton, Mass. And I go back, is it in an intersection where there's car? Yes. It's got crosswalks, sidewalks.
Very
Yes.
main road.
But still, it's empty all the time, unless there's a scheduled game. It's empty. Mike, was any field in Brighton, Massachusetts during the middle 80s and early 90s empty on a summer day?
No. Never.
Zero, right? Same
Yep.
thing with Wallingford, Connecticut. Zero.
Yep.
These kids do not go out and play now. They don't do things. So from a sociology point and mental health, do they learn to, resolve conflict? That's a whole no. But here's what they don't do. They don't learn how to move, right? They don't compensate for getting minor little injuries and be able to move, because unless it is an organized team activity,
It's not happening.
they don't do it. And I just
Yeah.
see it in my own daughters. They don't move. And
Yeah.
my poor oldest daughter, even though I've taught her a million times how to land, in 2 weeks from yesterday, she's going to be getting ACL surgery because she went up to hit a volleyball and came down. No one's around. Didn't land anyone's foot. Boom, blew her knee out. She didn't land in a squat because the people supervising are not honing in on proper movement. And I watch my little one come up to hit, and I'm not going to say anything, right? I'm going to stand in the sidelines. I'm sure you do. Like, shrugged up, no butt back, zero chance to hit. If she gets a hit, it's a miracle, right? Because she's not set up in an athletic position to hit. Then I see the whole chain. Oh, we worked on hitting, and there. Okay, how come no one fixed my daughter's horrific stance?
Well, I can
You know what I
answer
mean?
that one for you, because that's a bigger part of the, well, I don't know if it's a bigger, but it's a major part of the problem is not only are they not going to that position normally, because they're not going out and they're not letting their body feel its way through the proper movement, but they're being taught the wrong way. I can't tell you how many kids I've seen just this past summer and fall that I've worked with, the kids that I've seen for the first time. And I had started asking them, I go, let me ask them, were you taught to be up on your toes when you hit? Well, yeah. Up on your toes, knees bent, right? And you see it, the bounce. They bounce the knees for, and because when I see the little league coaches and youth coaches, and no offense to them, but because they're being taught what they were taught, likely, right?
Yeah, of course.
And they do it. They say, hey, bend your knees, and they bounce. And so the kids, and this is what we got to realize as coaches, they take things so literally. So not only are they going to bend their knees, but you're going to see them do their little bounce thing that you're doing. And you're not doing that. You're doing that to emphasize the bend in the knee, and they step out, so they're going to do it. Knees bent forward, up on their toes, right? No heel engagement with the ground, which completely disengages your posture, your chain. And so, yeah, it's worse than them just not getting it. They're being taught the wrong way, and they're having that sort of driven into the muscle memory. Because again, that's the only time they're really playing. And that's, and by the way, I want to say something real quick for people listening and say, if you might say, well, yeah, I know how to do a squat, and I know you're supposed to bring your hips back. What Kevin does, and I've seen him do it for years and years and years, it's more than that. He doesn't get into it all the time, but the sequence of how your glute muscles fire, okay, that sequencing can be off. So you could look to the naked eye or as a novice and go, that squat's not bad, but he takes it to a much deeper level. And I know I was doing it wrong for a long time. My daughter's gone to see him. She was doing it wrong for a long time. And then, things come out of that, having a sore lower back, not being able to rotate your hips as quick as you can. And all of that affects your performance. Right. And so I said it once, I'll say it again. I'll say it a million times. This is a sport that you can learn to be good at, but you're never going to be really good unless you get these basic movements down first. I mean, it's just not going to happen. You're never going to maximize your potential.
Oh, and that's literally the basics of, you'll see like in the online Velocity X course, the pitching mechanics or drills are only like 1/3 of the program. The other 2/3 are how to move correctly, right? And it's not only so the program isn't only just for pitchers. I also have a coaching certification, and you're certified in the game test. You know what that alone will do.
Oh my God.
On improving an athlete. Just pick one test and master. Pick the squat. Have your athlete, like you just said, master a squat, not only from a movement, but a muscle synergy, what's contracting, and you are going to see explosions. Like, we've worked with the same athlete, co-coaching, right? You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. And there's numbers immediately. You'll see it on your Rapsodo. You'll just see it. The velo, the exit velocity, it goes up it has to go up because you're moving correctly. Like, so to me, when I'm, of course, as you know, social media immediately they start to discredit, and this is why we have the podcast. Prove it live. Okay.
Right.
I can come and prove it live to you. If you improve the basics of functional movement, anything you do athletically is going to improve. It's
Yes.
just it's a fact. Like, that's just the way it is. And that's all of what the Velo RX program is about. And you're going to increase your velocity right then and there sometimes, right
I've
then
seen you
and
do
there.
it. I've seen
Right
you
then
do
and
it.
there.
Yeah.
You'll take any machine and it'll go up right then and there.
I've seen you do it firsthand. I've seen you get velocity out of pitchers. And I can also tell you that, Kevin's working with these guys that I'm working with. And a lot of times, right? So, I know how to do this. I obviously don't know. I'm not Kevin. He's the expert at it. So I'll send players to him. And so anyone out there that's listening has a kid or is a player, who couldn't afford to gain 10% on their exit velocity as a hitter? Okay. That's a kind of like a minimum. That's like your average base sort of improvement. So you're at 90 miles an hour. That's a good exit velocity. It's upper level for a varsity high school. You add 10% of that, and now you're in the upper levels of Major League Baseball. So it's a significant difference. And that's what
Yeah.
you're going to get. I mean, I see it. I've seen it dozens of times.
Well,
Dozens.
years ago, and one day he has promised me he's going to come do the show. Former major leaguer Roberto Kelly, right?
Mhm.
We're doing a camp years ago, 10 years ago or so, and we're in a hit tracks machine. And I did that same trick where, he swung. I forgot what his exit velo was, and then all I did was correct his sequence of him getting into his stance. The next swing was 7 miles. The next swing was 7 miles an hour greater on his exit velocity.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it too.
You have to move. So any program that's not teaching you to move correctly first, I'm not saying don't do the program, but you're wasting your money if you don't learn, your kid doesn't learn as a precursor to move correctly first. I think with the Velocity RX program, I've included it with the testing to make sure you move correctly all in one program. But your kid's not getting better. He's taking lessons. He's doing this. I can guarantee you there is a movement flaw that's preventing him or her, from getting better, almost guaranteed. Right. And, some of it has to do with just the mind body connection of, a coach, you could be trying to get someone to do something like to sit back or to load. Well, they can't do a one-legged squat because their hamstring glute junction, it's not working, right? That's the difference, right? When you talk about a medical professional having a program, that's the difference, because I'm going to be able to spot that in a film and be able to correct that, because this whole program is not only teaching people the proper movement mechanics, but it's also following them. What has happened in the past is I will train someone all summer. They will go to wherever they go, and I'll get a call, little Johnny's injured or little Johnny's velo dropped. Send me a film. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, well, the coach didn't like this. So when you sign up for this program, you actually have to make a pledge. I am the person who's got the last say. I'll work with anybody, but these mechanics are kinesiologically correct. And if you're going to do something non-kinesiologically correct, you're going to get hurt. I don't want, so part of this program is, monthly film. I'll keep them because I'll be reviewing their film to keep them healthy. So that's the point. Healthy.
Yeah, health is important because no matter what you're capable of, if you're off the field because of injury, you're not going to be able to do it anyway. I mean, that's so. And I can tell you too. Kevin said that this is pretty much everybody, and everyone could benefit from it. It's the truth. I probably talked about this before, but I can tell you, like, when you work with as many kids as I do over the years, you see trends. And, one of the biggest trends, the easiest thing to point out with hitters is hitters always, when they first come in to see me, I'd say literally 98+% of them. And that's maybe even being conservative. They have an overactive front shoulder. they shrug their front shoulder, they pull, they're out of sequence, they're not turning their back hip first. And again, talked about up on their toes, they're not in the squat. But that front shoulder, you see it like you see a kid walking, you go, all right, I know I'm gonna have to work on this front shoulder. So these trends and these flaws, right? Let's call them what they are. They're they're ubiquitous, across the sport. And so make sure that these basic things are done. It's almost like, you're about to start a race and you're not starting at the same starting line as everyone else. You're starting, 100 feet back, right? You're never going to get to that, you're never going to get to the front of the line and beat those other racers because you're starting so far back. And it's the same thing, with body movement and having corrective mechanics. So important.
1000%. Like you just talked about the overactive front shoulder. I mean, the upper trap is an athletic killer, right? It's engaged on most people because that's what their posture looks like, right? It's going to hurt your velocity, throwing, hitting, golfing, tennis, blocking the guy across from you, defending yourself when someone's throwing a haymaker at you. It is an athletic killer. And you have to learn scapular depression and how that works, because that is the kinesiological sequence. And if people aren't talking to you about that, you need to look elsewhere, or you need to get supplement that, get with a healthcare professional before you spend all this money on other pitching or velocity programs, and make sure you're moving correctly or you're wasting your money.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen to that.
All right.
Amen.
So if you want to contact the show, you can email us at info@proveitlive.com. You can check our website out at proveitlive.com and our YouTube channel, which this video will be up. Please like and subscribe and comment. We respond to everything that helps us grow. And we appreciate you listening to us, and we appreciate your time and attention. And thank you again for listening to us.
See you from 110.
You got it.
Soon.